Hello learners, welcome to NIOS Studio. This is Senior Secondary Environmental Science course of NIOS. I am Neelam Gupta, course coordinator of this subject. Welcome to this program of NIOS. Learners, as you know, waterfalls as a rainfall or snow melt either lost as surface runoff. So water found underneath below the soil, some amount also percolate through soil under the influence of gravity and get collects in the soil pores space due to the presence of underlying above the solid layer or impervious layer. So this is what this is. This water is called underground water or groundwater. So we will discuss about the groundwater resources, which is vitally important for agriculture, industries, and day-to-day living. So during this program, we will discuss about the difference between surface water and underground water, various ways in which underground water can be obtained, methods of economical use of water in our homes, and how the groundwater recharge naturally as well as human agencies. And lastly, we will discuss about the risk of depletion of groundwater if not properly managed. So, what is surface water and groundwater? So, water and water vapors are in constant circulation, powered by the energy from sunlight and gravity as a natural process, जिसे हम हाइड्रोलॉजिकल या जल चक्र कहते हैं, हाइड्रोलॉजिकल साइकिल या जल चक्र कहते हैं. यानी ये वाटर वेपर के रूप में मिलती है. तो वाटर जो है ओशन से और लैंड के सरफेस से एवेपोरेट होता है और टेम्परेली ये एटमॉस्फेयर में वाटर वेपर के रूप में होल्ड किया जाता है और वहाँ से वाटर वेपर जब ठंडे हो जाते हैं तो वापस पृथ्वी के सरफेस पर एज ए प्रेसिपिटेशन और वर्षा के रूप में गिरते हैं. और इसके बारे में हमने जब बात की थी ग्लोबल सर्कुलेशन ऑफ वाटर, तो हम हाइड्रोलॉजिकल साइकिल को पहले ही डिस्कस कर चुके थे. सो सोर्सेज ऑफ ऑल वाटर, फ्रेश वाटर ऑन द अर्थ जो है वो रेनफॉल ही है. जब रेनफॉल होता है वो उसका कुछ भाग जो है सरफेस पर फ्लो करता है भूमि पर रन ऑफ वाटर के रूप में, जो कि अल्टीमेटली किसी वाटर बॉडी जैसे कि स्ट्रीम है, रिवर है, पॉन्ड है या लेक में चला जाता है. ये सरफेस पर वाटर मिलता है, इसीलिए इस वाटर को हम कहते हैं दिस वाटर इज कॉल्ड सरफेस वाटर. So part of the precipitation infiltrates below the groundwater surface into the soil zones. When the soil zones become saturated, water percolates downward. नीचे चला जाता है. तो zone of saturation occurs where all the soil pores are filled with water. So part of the rainwater slowly infiltrate into the soil under the pull of gravity. इसीलिए जो अंडरग्राउंड वाटर बॉडी है वो क्रिएट हो जाती है और इस ये क्रिएट पर जो वाटर बॉडी क्रिएट हुई है जिसे हम एक्वीफर के नाम से जानते हैं, और इसके अंदर जो पानी है जो एक्यूमुलेट हो रहा है, एकत्र हो रहा है, उसी को हम ग्राउंड वाटर कहते हैं. सो अंडर द पुल ऑफ ग्रेविटी ग्राउंड वाटर फ्लो स्लोली एंड स्टेडली थ्रू द सॉइल. इन लो एरियाज इट इमर्जेस इन स्प्रिंग्स एंड स्ट्रीम्स and both surface water and ground water eventually return to the ocean where evaporation replenishes the supply of atmospheric water vapor. यानी ये जल चक्र, ये जो है चक्र चलता ही रहता है. Wind carries the moisture air over land, precipitation occurs and the hydrological cycle continue. The process of precipitation replenishing the groundwater supply is known as recharge, and recharge occur only during the raining season in tropical climates or during spring in the temperate climate. So about 10 to 20% जो precipitation है वो धरती पर गिरता है, percolate through soil और contribute करता है water bearing stratas में, एक्वीफर को भर देता है. एक्वीफर क्या है? A layer of rock or soil that can take in and hold water. So groundwater is constantly in motion. It moves very slowly. The actual rate depends on the transmissibility and storage capacity of the aquifer. Sometimes outflow of groundwater takes place through the springs. Spring क्या है? It's a natural discharge point of subterranean water at the surface of the ground or directly into the bed of the stream, lake or sea. And groundwater also flow through riverbeds. Riverbed is the ground which a river flows over. The renewal time of the groundwater near the water table may be 1 year or less, while in deep aquifer it may be as long as thousands of years. So now we will discuss water table. Water table is also known as groundwater table. It is the upper layer of an underground surface in which the soil or rocks are permanently saturated with water. The depth at which the pore space in the soil is completely filled with water, and the level at which this occurs is called as the water table. Water table separates the groundwater zone that lies below and it from the capillary fringe or zone of aeration which lies above. The water table fluctuates both with the season and from year to year because it is affected by rainfall and climatic variations and also affected by the quantum withdrawal from wells or by artificial recharging. तो हम जैसे देखते हैं कि पहले जो पानी जो हमें अंडरग्राउंड वाटर मिल जाता था वो 60 to 70 फीट पर मिल जाता था, लेकिन वाटर जैसे हमने बात की कि रेनफॉल और क्लाइमेटिक वेरिएशंस के चलते वाटर टेबल भी अफेक्ट करती है और आज शायद पानी हमें 110 फीट के नीचे मिलता है और शायद इन फ्यूचर अगर हमारा रेनफॉल का जो साइकिल है वो अगर चेंज होता है तो हमें क्राइसिस का भी सामना करना पड़ सकता है. सो आर्टिफिशियल ये अफेक्ट जैसे करता है आर्टिफिशियल रिचार्ज के लिए चक्कर में भी, और इट इज़ एक्सप्लॉयटेड फॉर डोमेस्टिक यूज़, लाइव स्टॉक एंड इरीगेशन सिंस सम मेमोरियल. क्योंकि हम सोचते हैं कि हमारे को फ्रेश वाटर की ज़रूरत है, हम उसको कैसे निकाल सकते हैं, ग्राउंड वाटर का हम एग्जॉस्ट को एक्सप्लॉयट करते हैं, बहुत ज़्यादा इसका ओवर यूज़ कर रहे हैं क्योंकि हमें हमारी लाइफ के हर काम के लिए पानी की ज़रूरत है, एग्रीकल्चर के लिए ज़रूरत है, डोमेस्टिक यूज़ के लिए, लाइव स्टॉक के लिए, और धीरे धीरे करके क्या हो रहा है कि हम बहुत ज़्यादा मात्रा में अंडरग्राउंड वाटर का इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं. और भारत जैसे कंट्री में क्या है कि बहुत बड़ी जो हमारी जनसंख्या का परसेंटेज है वो ग्राउंड वाटर पर ही निर्भर करता है अपने जो दैनिक हैं, जो घरेलू जो नीड्स हैं उनको पूरी करने के लिए. तो अब हम बात करते हैं कि सरफेस वाटर और ग्राउंड वाटर में अंतर क्या है, डिफरेंस क्या है. So surface water is the water which remains on the surface of the land in form of streams, rivers, ponds or lakes. In case of groundwater is the water which is normally found underground and is obtained by digging wells, tube wells, hand pumps. Surface water is exposed and can be easily contaminated कि खुले में है. Groundwater is underground or hidden and this can not be easily contaminated. लेकिन अभी डिफरेंट है कि ग्राउंड वाटर भी कंटामिनेट होता है. सरफेस वाटर ऑफन नीड्स टू बी ट्रांसपोर्टेड टू द प्लेस ऑफ यूज एंड दिस एक्सपेंसिव. ग्राउंड वाटर इज अवेलेबल एट द प्लेस ऑफ देयर यूज एंड नीड नॉट टू बी ट्रांसपोर्टेड, सो इट इज cheaper. Surface water cannot be directly consumed as it is contaminated, but in case of groundwater, it is uncontaminated and can be directly consumed. Surface water is exposed and subject to evaporation losses and this less dependable in time of drought. In case of groundwater, it is underground, so it doesn't get lost due to evaporation and it is thus more dependable in times of drought. Now we will talk about the different groundwater resources. Value of an aquifer depend on the porosity of the geological layer of which it is formed. Water is withdrawn from an aquifer by pumping it out of the well or infiltration gallery. Infiltration gallery typically includes several horizontal perforated pipes radiating onwards from the bottom of a large diameter vertical shafts, and wells are constructed in several ways depending on the depth and nature of the aquifer. So wells are used for public water supplies, usually more than 100 feet deep and 4 to 12 inches in diameter, must penetrate large aquifers that can provide dependable yields of good quality water. And submersible pump जो कि इलेक्ट्रिक मोटर के द्वारा चलाया जाता है, can be used to raise water to the surface. These are large number of methods to obtain groundwater. Other springs, dug wells, shallow tube wells, deep tube wells, hand pumps. So we will talk different method of ग्राउंड वाटर एब्स्ट्रैक्शन, कहाँ से पानी मिलता है, हम ग्राउंड वाटर कैसे ले सकते हैं. स्प्रिंग्स के द वाटर टेबल जनरली फॉलोज द टोपोग्राफी ऑफ द ग्राउंड सरफेस. द स्लोप इन द वाटर टेबल प्रोफाइल result in subsoil flow. Groundwater movement is comparatively very slow. The flow depends on slope and permeability. So when the water table is above the surface water level in some hilly areas, so groundwater flows out as a spring, और this spring water can easily be used as source of drinking water. तो पहाड़ी इलाकों में इस spring water का हम पीने के लिए इस्तेमाल करते हैं. सेकेंड मेथड है हमारा डग वेल, यानी कुएं खोदने वाला. तो इट कवर्स ऑर्डिनरी ओपन वेल्स ऑफ वेरिंग डायमेंशंस डग और संक फ्रॉम द ग्राउंड सरफेस इनटू वाटर बियरिंग stratum to extract water for irrigation purposes. These are broadly machinery wells, kacha wells and duck-cum-bore wells. So all such schemes are of private nature belonging to individual cultivators. The oldest water supplies to town as in Rome, Lyon were formed from such sources. So मेजॉरिटी ऑफ, जैसे हमने बात की कि हिली एरिया में हिली पॉपुलेशन जो है हिमालय रीजन की, वो इस तरह के सोर्सेज पर ही डिपेंडेंट है. सेकंड है थर्ड वन जो है टाइप है वो शैलो ट्यूबवेल है. इट कंसिस्ट ऑफ ए बोर होल बिल्ट इनटू ग्राउंड विद द पर्पस ऑफ टैपिंग ग्राउंड वाटर फ्रॉम पोरस जोन्स. द डेप्थ ऑफ ए शैलो ट्यूबवेल डज नॉट एक्सीड 6 to 70 meter. The tube wells are generally operated for 6 to 8 hours during irrigation season. जब खेती का सीजन चल रहा था, सिंचाई की आवश्यकता होती है, तब 6 से 8 घंटे तक हम इसको चलाते हैं ट्यूब वेल्स को. एंड गिव yield of 100 to 300 meter per day, which is roughly 2 to 3 times that of a dug wells. यानी इसकी कैपेसिटी वाटर फ्लो बहुत ज़्यादा होता है. आप देखते हैं ट्यूबवेल से खेतों में पानी दिया जाता है. एक शैलो ट्यूबवेल की हमने बात की, अब हम बात करेंगे डीप ट्यूबवेल का. इट यूजुअली एक्सटेंड टू द डेप्थ ऑफ 100 meter एंड मोर एंड इज डिजाइंड टू गिव अ डिस्चार्ज ऑफ 100 to 200 cubic meter per hour. These tube wells operate round the clock during the irrigation season and depending upon the availability of power. And their annual output is roughly 15 times that of an average shallow tube well. हैंड पंप हमने अपने आसपास के एरिया में भी देखा है. हिली विलेज एरिया में, स्लम एरिया में, जो छोटे टाउन हैं उनमें हम देखते हैं. कॉमनली यूज्ड टू ड्रॉ ग्राउंड वाटर इन विलेजेस एंड स्लम एरियाज इन अर्बन सेंटर्स. These are manually operated, so there is no electricity or no other power is required to operate them. तो फाइनेंशियली ये अच्छे हैं, इसमें बिजली का खर्चा नहीं है, तो पैसे हमारे बचते हैं. अब हम बात करते हैं इकोनॉमिक यूजेस ऑफ वाटर का. तो घर में हम किस तरह से इस पानी को बचाएं, उसके बारे में हम बात करने जा रहे हैं. तो economic use of water can have major environmental, public health and economic benefits by helping to improve water quality, maintain aquatic ecosystem and protect drinking water resources. So by using more water more efficiently and by purchasing more water efficient products, उससे हम पानी बचा सकते हैं. We can also help mitigate the effect of drought Efficiency measures can also save money on water and energy bills. तो सेविंग वाटर एट होम कैन बी कैसे हो सकता है, किस तरह से हो सकता है, बाथरूम में, किचन में, लॉन्ड्री है, आपका गार्डन है, लैंडस्केपिंग है, इक्विपमेंट है, इनमें जो पानी हम इस्तेमाल करें, अगर हम उसको जुडिशियसली इस्तेमाल करते हैं तो हम बहुत सारा पानी बचा सकते हैं. अब कैसे बचा सकते हैं उस पर बात करते हैं. बाथरूम में कैसे कि डोंट लेट द वाटर रन वाइल शेविंग और ब्रशिंग टीथ, यूज मग वाइल शेविंग और ब्रशिंग टीथ. शावर हम बाथटब की बजाय बकेट में उसमें ले सकते हैं, शॉर्ट शावर ले. टर्न ऑफ द वाटर वाइल सोपिंग और शैम्पूइंग, पानी खुला हुआ ना छोड़ें जब सोप का यूज कर रहे हैं, शैम्पू कर रहे हैं. यू मस्ट यूज अ टब, क्लोज द ड्रेन बिफोर टर्निंग ऑन द वाटर एंड फिल द टब ओनली हाफ फुल. एंड बेथ स्मॉल चिल्ड्रंस टुगेदर एंड नेवर यूज योर टॉयलेट एज ए वेस्ट बास्केट. किचन में हम किस तरह से कर सकते हैं. सिंपली प्रैक्टिसेस सेव लॉट ऑफ वाटर. कैसे, स्टोर ड्रिंकिंग वाटर इन अ रेफ्रिजरेटर, wash fruits and vegetable in a basin and use a vegetable brush. Don't use water to defrost frozen fruits then ahead of use. Scrap rather than rinse dishes before loading into the dishwasher. Add food waste to your compost pit pile instead of using garbage disposal. Wash only full loads of laundry or use the appropriate water label or load size selection on the washing machine. Homes are highly efficient plumbing fixtures and appliances save about 30% of indoor water use and yield substantial saving on water, sewer and energy bills. गार्डन एंड लैंडस्केपिंग में हम किस तरह से कर सकते हैं. डिपेंडिंग ऑन द क्लाइमेट अप टू 75% ऑफ होम्स टोटल वाटर यूज ड्यूरिंग द ग्रोइंग सीजन is for outdoor purposes. Detect and repair all leaks in irrigation system. Use properly treated wastewater for irrigation whenever available. Water the lawn or garden during the coolest part of the day, that is early morning or late evening. Don't water on windy days. Water trees and shrubs which have deep root systems for a longer time and less frequently than shadow rooted plants that frequently require a smaller amount of water. Check with the local extension services for advice on watering needs in your area. Set sprinkles to water the lawn or garden only, not the street or sidewalk. Use soakers, hoses or trickle irrigation system for trees and shrubs. Install moisture sensor on sprinkler systems. Use mulch around shrubs and garden plants to reduce evaporation from the soil surface and to cut down on weed growth. Minimize or eliminate fertilizing which promotes new growth needing additional watering. Don't use water that contains bleach, automatic dishwashing detergent or fabric softener for irrigation. Equipment में से हम किस तरह से करते हैं. तो इंस्टॉल लो फ्लो फॉसेट, एरिएटर और शावर हेड्स. आजकल इस तरह का सिस्टम है. आप अगर फॉसेट लेते हैं या शावर लेते हैं तो उसमें इस तरह का सिस्टम है कि उसमें फ्लो जो है वो लो होगा. Consider purchasing a high efficiency washing machine which can save over 50% in laundry water and energy use. Repair all leaks. A leaky toilet can waste about 1000 liters per day. To detect leaks in the toilet, add food coloring to the tank water. If the colored water appears in the bowl, the toilet is leaking. आउटडोर यूज में हम किस तरह से सेव कर सकते हैं. स्वीप ड्राइववेज, साइडवॉक्स एंड स्टेप्स रादर देन यूजिंग हॉस पाइप्स टू वॉश देम. वॉश द कार विथ वाटर विथ ए बकेट और कंसिडर यूजिंग अ कमर्शियल कार वॉश दैट रिसाइकल्स वाटर. व्हेन यूजिंग ए हॉस, कंट्रोल द फ्लो विथ एन ऑटोमेटिक शट ऑफ नोजल. अवॉइड परचेजिंग recreational water toys which require a constant stream of water. Consider purchasing a new water saving swimming pool filter. Use a pool cover to reduce evaporation when pool is not being used. Don't install or use ornamental water features unless they recycle the water. Use signs to show the public that water is recycled. Do not operate during a drought. So, next we will talk about the artificial recharge. The increasing demand for water has increased awareness towards the use of natural recharge to augment groundwater supplies. Means artificial recharge is a process by which excess surface water is directed into the ground, either by spreading on the surface, by using recharge wells, or by altering natural conditions to increase infiltration. इन दूसरे शब्दों में अगर हम बात करते हैं तो artificial to replenish an aquifer. Recharge refers for the movement of water through man-made system from the surface of the water to underground water boring strata where it may be stored for future use. Artificial recharge, sometimes we call plant recharge, is a way to store water underground in times of water surplus to meet the demand in time of shortage. Now come to the direct artificial recharge. It can be by several ways and means. One is spreading basins. These methods involve surface spreading of water in basins which are excavated in the existing terrain. For effective artificial recharge, highly permeable soils are suitable and maintenance of a layer of water over the highly permeable soils is necessary. Second type can be recharge pit and shafts. So, conditions that permit surface spreading methods for artificial recharge are relatively rare. Often areas of low permeability lies between the land surface and water table. In such situation, artificial recharge system could be effective, that is pits and shaft could be effective for this. Unfiltered runoff waters leave a thin film of sediments on the sides and bottom of the pits which require maintenance in order to sustain the high recharge rates. Shaft may be circular, rectangular or of square cross section and may be backfilled with porous material. So, we will take a short break of this moment and later we will discuss another part of this lesson, this program.
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने।
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो, धन साधन समय की सीमा से
कहीं पड़े वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो,
कभी पड़े हम कहीं पड़े वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
मित्रों हम उठे और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने हम, अपना दीपक स्वयं बने हम, अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
राष्ट्रीय मुक्त विद्यालय का है द्वार खुला सबकी खातिर।
शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर
शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बात।
कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने हम, अपना दीपक स्वयं बने हम, अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने हम,
ब्रेक में जाने से हम पहले बात कर रहे थे रिचार्ज बिट्स एंड आर्टिफिशियल रिचार्ज के बारे में। तो आर्टिफिशियल रिचार्ज में हम बात कर रहे थे रिचार्ज बिट्स एंड शाफ्ट की। सो कंडीशन दैट परमिट्स सरफेस स्प्रेडिंग मेथड्स फॉर आर्टिफिशियल रिचार्ज आर रिलेटिवली रेयर. Often areas of low permeability lie between the land surface and water table. In such situation, artificial recharge system could be effective. So unfiltered runoff water leaves a thin film of sediments on the sides and bottoms of the pit, which requires maintenance in order to sustain the high recharge rates. Shafts may be circular, rectangular or square cross sections and may be backfilled with porous materials. Excavation for making pits and shafts may terminate above the water table level or may be hydraulic connectors extend below the water table. Recharge rates in both shafts and pits may decrease with time due to accumulation of fine grain material and the plugging effect brought about by microbial activities. Third type is ditches. Ditch is a long narrow trench with its bottom with width less than its depth, and its system can be designed to suit the topographic and geological conditions that exist at a given site. A layout for a ditch and a flooding recharge project could include a series of ditches trending down the topographic slope. So, ditches could terminate in a collection ditch designed to carry away the water that does not infiltrate. So, this would reduce the accumulation of fine material. Recharge wells are used to directly recharge water into deep water bearing zones. Recharge wells are suitable only in areas where a thick impervious or solid layer exists between the surface of the soil and the aquifer to be replenished. They are also advantageous where land is scarce. A relatively high rate of recharge can be attained by this method. Indirect method of recharging includes enhanced streambed infiltration or induced infiltration, and this method consists of setting a gallery or a line of well parallel to the bank of a river and at a short distance from it. Without the wells, there would be unimpeded outflow of groundwater to the river. So, when a small amount of water, groundwater are withdrawn from the gallery parallel to the river, the amount of groundwater discharged into the river decreases. So, the water recovered by the gallery consists natural groundwater, and each groundwater withdrawal is accompanied by a drawdown in the water table. For high recovery rates, this drawdown trends to lower the groundwater table at the shoreline below that at the river. So, surface water from the river will be induced to enter the aquifer and to flow into the gallery. So, in area where the stream is separated from the aquifer by material of low permeability, leakage from the stream may be so small that the system is not feasible. Next type है conjective wells. Is also one that is screened in both shallow confined and deeper artisan aquifer. Water is pumped from the deeper aquifer, and when its surface is lowered below the shallowing water table, water from the shallow aquifer drained directly into the deeper aquifer. Water augmentation by conjective wells has an advantage of utilizing sediment free groundwater, which greatly reduces the damage of clogging well screens. So, there are some advantages and disadvantages of this artificial recharge. So, first we will talk about advantages. So, while recharging rain and surface water infiltrate the soil and percolate down through the various geological formations and get naturally cleansed, very few special tools are needed to dig drainage wells. In rock formation with high structural integrity, few additional materials may be required to construct the wells. Groundwater recharge stores water during the wet season for use in the dry season when demand is highest. Aquifer water can be improved by recharging with high quality injected water. Recharge can significantly increase the sustainable yield of an aquifer. Recharge methods are attractive, particularly in arid regions. Most aquifer recharge systems are easy to operate. In many river basins, control of surface water runoff to provide aquifer recharge reduces sedimentation problems. Recharge with less saline surface water or treated effluent improve the quality of saline aquifers, facilitating the use of the water for agriculture and livestock. There are some disadvantages also. In the absence of financial incentives, laws or other regulations to encourage landowners to maintain drainage wells adequately, the wells may fall into disrepair and ultimately become sources of groundwater contamination. There is a potential for contamination of the groundwater from injected surface water runoff, especially from agriculture field and road surfaces, unless the surface runoff is not pre-treated before injection. Unless significant volumes are injected into an aquifer, groundwater recharge may not be economically feasible. The hydrology of an aquifer should be investigated and understood before any future full-scale recharge project is implemented. So, now we will discuss about groundwater quality. As we know, groundwater plays an important role in India, particularly as a drinking water resource. So, groundwater has a number of unique features that suitable are as a water supply source. So, first, generally uncontaminated and thus can be consumed directly without any treatment. It can be available in close proximity to place for its widely distributed and less expensive. It is dependable and relatively less affected by drought. Large storage, treatment and distribution can be avoided. So, nearly 85% of the Indian population today is dependent on groundwater for their domestic demand. Groundwater is particularly important as a source of drinking water in rural areas. It also plays an important role in agriculture for both irrigation and bathing cattle. Industrial demand for groundwater are also high, as many prefer to use groundwater for the unique feature as we already discussed. So, groundwater quality is being increasingly threatened by agricultural, urban and industrial waste which leach or are injected into underlying aquifers. Once pollution has entered the subsurface environment, it may remain concealed for many years and become dispersed over wide areas, rendering groundwater supplies unsuitable for human uses. Come to the reason for declining groundwater quality. A vast majority of groundwater quality problems are caused by contamination, overexploitation or combination of the both. So, there are some reasons for declining groundwater quality. So, most groundwater quality problems are difficult to detect as they may be concealed below surface. So, they are also hard to resolve. The solutions are usually very expensive, time consuming and or not always effective. Many times the contamination is not detected until noxious substances actually appear in water used, by which time the pollution has often dispersed over a large area. All kind of activities carried out on land will have the potential to contaminate groundwater. Industrial discharge, landfills and subsurface injection of chemicals and hazardous waste are an obvious surface sources of groundwater pollution. So, these concentrated sources can be easily detected and regulated, but the more difficult problem is associated with diffuse sources of pollution like leaching of agrochemicals and animal waste, subsurface discharges from sewerages and septic tanks, and infiltration of polluted urban runoff and sewage where sewerage does not exist or defunct. Diffuse sources can affective in entire aquifer which is difficult to control and treat. The only solution to diffuse sources of pollution is to integrate land use with water management. Next we will talk about land use activities and their potential threat to groundwater quality. Look at the slide. You find residential activities that have more potential to pollute groundwater in form of unsewered sanitation, land and stream discharge of sewage, sewage oxidation ponds, sewer leakage, soil waste disposal, landfill, road and urban runoff, aerial rainfall, process industrial and commercial activities, process water, effluent lagoon, land and stream discharge of effluent, tank and pipeline leakage and accidental spills, well disposal of effluent, aerial falloff, landfill disposal and solid waste and hazardous waste, poor housekeeping, spillage and leakage during handling of material. Mining also has potential to pollute groundwater, mine drainage discharge, process water, slush lagoons, solid mine tailings, oil field spillage at group gathering stations, rural areas, cultivation with agrochemicals, irrigation with wastewater, soil salinization, livestock rearing, coastal areas, saltwater intrusion. Now come to the common groundwater contaminants. Nitrates, it's common. Dissolved nitrates commonly contaminate groundwater. High level of nitrate can cause blue baby disease in children, may form carcinogens and can accelerate eutrophication in surface water. Sources of nitrates are sewage, fertilizers, air pollution, landfill and industries. Poor hygiene of well and inadequate segregation of drainage charcoal from wells may cause pathogenic contamination of good water seepage from solid waste dumps, and municipal drains may also cause pathogenic contamination. Pathogens, bacteria and viruses can cause waterborne diseases such as typhoid, cholera, dysentery, polio and hepatitis may pass into the groundwater through discharge from sewage, landfill, septic tanks and livestock shelters. Trace metals which include lead, mercury, cadmium, copper, chromium, nickel. These metals can be toxic and carcinogenic. Seepage of industrial and mine discharge, fly ash ponds of thermal power plants can lead to metal in groundwater. Organic compounds such as pesticides and insecticides also cause groundwater pollution. Next we will talk about risk of depletion of groundwater. The demand of water has increased over the years and this has led to water scarcity in many parts of the world. About 2 billion people depends on groundwater supply, withdrawing about 20% of global water annually, much of it from shallow aquifers. So there are some risk factors, risk of depletion of groundwater. Situation is aggravated by the problem of water pollution or contamination. Groundwater pollution are becoming increasingly serious in many areas of the world. Rapid increase the rate of pumping of groundwater in many aquifers has caused a steady lowering of water table levels where extraction of water has exceeded rate of discharge. Causes of groundwater depletion. So, it has been caused by human actions. During the past 2 decades, the water level in several parts of India has been falling rapidly due to an increase in extraction. Number of wells drilled for irrigation for both food and cash crop have rapidly and indiscriminately increased. India's rapidly rising population and changing lifestyles has also increased the domestic need for water. Water requirement for the industry also shows an overall increase. Intense competition among users as in agriculture, industry and domestic sector is steadily lowering the groundwater table. Quality of groundwater is getting severely affected due to pollution of surface water. Besides discharge of treating wastewater through bores and leachate from unscientific disposal of soil waste also contaminate groundwater, thereby reducing the quality of freshwater resources. So groundwater has the two components, one is static part and the other is dynamic, which comprises annual addition due to recharge. Quantum the every yearly use needs to be limited. During deficit years, however, a part of static component is drawn for use expecting recuperation during the next surplus year. So depend on static storage for long amount of mining of underground water. Ideally, the age of groundwater used should be young as possible. Greater the age means longer the period of which mining has been carried out. Groundwater depletion in a pressing challenge for India. Groundwater plays an important role in the sustaining India's green revolution. The high yielding varieties of crops which all increasing agricultural productivity dependent on the timely application of water. This led to a spurt in groundwater structure with enterprising farmers making technological and institutional innovation not only to extract groundwater but also to transport it to the fields of other farmers, giving rise to flourishing groundwater markets. Falling water table in several states now threaten agricultural sustainability. This has been encouraged by policies for cheap electricity and the absence of a property right structures for water withdrawal. During rainy season, availability of water from precipitation is far in excess of natural and man-made holding capacity, which results in floods. During the non-rainy period, high evaporation rates coupled with high water demand cause drought conditions requiring import of water, flood and drought that constitute the extreme manifestation of hydraulic cycle. The situation is exaggerated due to depleting forest cover in the country. Supply of groundwater is not unlimited, it is always available in good quality. In many cases, the abstraction of water quantities of groundwater has resulted in the drying up the wells, salt water intrusion and drying up of river that receive their flow in dry seasons. Water found in groundwater bodies is replenished by drainage through the soil. So when water table is deep underground, the water aquifer may be exceedingly old. Water is being used extensively for water supply and irrigation purposes. The use of such water which is not being recharged under the current climatic regime is termed groundwater mining. So in India, and Bangladesh, many people used groundwater, और इससे बहुत सारे लोग आर्सेनिक टॉक्सिसिटी से भी परेशान हैं, और वेस्ट बंगाल का बहुत बड़ा हिस्सा इससे अफेक्टेड है, क्योंकि जो लोग हैं इस पानी को पीने के लिए कह सकते हैं कि उनके पास में ग्राउंड वाटर में ये टॉक्सिसिटी मिक्स है। तो आज हमने बात की ग्राउंड वाटर रिसोर्सेज के बारे में। So this is all about the groundwater resources. We will come again to meet you in new program of environmental science. Till then, goodbye and thank you.